And we continue at 1:06 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wangs in Culver City.
John, it's time for another edition of Politicians Swearing Up a Storm. Here was Gavin Newsom yesterday on the New York Times The Daily podcast.
Look, we all live in these bubbles, this filter bubble online, and obviously just complete bullshit and propaganda coming from Fox. I mean, what a joke.
He's been the topic on Fox News pretty much 24/7 this week.
Oh, he loves that.
Oh, he must be eating it up with a spoon.
You think he takes the remote and just keeps hitting rewind every time he hears the words Gavin Newsom come out of Jesse Waters' face?
Oh, I think that grin that he has on his face that looks like the Joker when Jack Nicholson played him just gets wider and wider and wider every time Jesse Waters mentions his name.
That is something we are mindful of.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. She is the former majority leader in the California Senate. You can follow her on X at Gloria J. Romero. Senate Majority Leader Romero, welcome.
Well, it's good to be with you, especially today. It's Friday the 13th. So I hope you have some scary topics for us to discuss.
Well, you know what? You were the first person who has mentioned that to me, and you're absolutely right. It is Friday the 13th.
I'm going to go get a cheap-ass
tattoo.
Get
on Randy. Oh, I've been monitoring it all day because there's a whole lot of scary things happening in the city of Los Angeles.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, let's start out with Gavin because, as Randy mentioned, Gavin Newsom is swearing up a storm pretty much wherever he goes. He believes, in my opinion, that if he uses curse words, that he sounds more authentic than if he was using the Queen's English. It's not something that's unique to Gavin Newsom. We've seen many other politicians do that where they swear all the time now. Jasmine Crockett has made a career out of it. But he's also not just doing the swearing. What we've also seen, and we've seen it with Gavin Newsom, where he was requesting that the Trump administration arrest him, threatening them, why don't you arrest me? Go ahead and arrest me, because he thinks that he would benefit from that politically. We saw that with LaMonica McIver or what's her last name?
I think you got it right, LaMonica McIver.
Okay, I actually got that one right. What do you know? The congresswoman from New Jersey who got arrested after she assaulted a police officer. Yesterday, we had Alex Padilla, who tried to disrupt a press conference that Kristi Noem was leading, and he was removed by police officers from the room. Why do you think they're using foul language, and why do you think they're trying to get arrested and trying to get kicked out of rooms? Do you think it's just an attention-grabbing device?
You know, it's really a very pathetic device. I find it just unseemly, and I don't care what the generational group happens to be. I think that this is a group that figures that they are appealing to a younger demographic. Remember when Kamala Harris was first anointed? You know, the Vaso had been given, and she was tapped to become the candidate, throwing out millions of votes in an already rigged primary. And they called it the vibes. Look at her, the summer of love, the vibes, etc. This is what they're using. This use of language is intentional, and they're trying to make themselves look hip and smart and in check with everything. And in reality, they are just failing. They have become foul-mouthed, nonsensical, far left, basically potty-mouthed politicians. But that's all they have. They either call you a Nazi or they curse at you using the most vile language. What else do they have?
Here's what's interesting to me, though, and there are people who just naturally have foul mouths, and it's very much in their character to swear. You served in the Senate with John Burton, and he was known to toss around an F-bomb or two, but that was authentically who he was. That's legitimately how the man spoke. With Gavin Newsom, he's not one of those guys. He's not a John Burton. It looks forced. It looks like he's trying to swear on purpose to get his point across.
Right. And so it is. You're absolutely right. It's very inauthentic, but they probably focus grouped this and said, if you want to reach, remember the Democratic Party is spending $20 million to try to reach Democratic men although, save their 20 million. I think this language issue is a part of it. It would be very curious to go into the bowels of the Democratic Party and see why suddenly all of them are cursing up a storm. And when they're not cursing you, they are body slamming you like the failed, pathetic efforts of Senator Padilla with that stunt yesterday. So it's all part of the Trump bad, Trump authoritarian, MAGA is eccentric. And so they have to bring out basically the big language, the big bodies to try to counteract it. And it's just not working. It's so fake, and it's just bad. We don't want our kids exposed to this.
It might be that they've workshopped it. It might be that they have some kind of private polling data that shows that people respond well to it. But I think it's even more simple than that. I think they're just copying Trump. Trump used foul language. Again, with him, though, it's authentic. That's how the man talks. And they said, okay, he got elected in 2016 after he gave all of these rallies where he would sprinkle in some profanity. And so they said, all right, it's the profanity that makes him popular, so let's copy that. He got arrested, and the mugshot went online. And the mugshot became something that he used to sell T-shirts with or mugs with or whatever. He embraced it. It became part of his persona. And people responded well to it. And I think they thought, okay, well, if he gets a mugshot and that is something that makes him iconic, then maybe we should all get mugshots too. I think as much as they hate Donald Trump, they copy everything the man does.
No, you're right. I agree with you on that. They are trying to, flattery is what? Imitation is the best form of flattery. But the reality is, though, is that they ain't Trump. Their message is completely off. And even when they are using the F word, remember Trump's F word was fight, fight, fight. There's quite a bit of difference between those two F words overall. And Trump overall, yes, again, to there's language. Everybody once in a while may say something, but it's not a strategy that Trump has employed. So they are trying to make themselves look tough. They're going to take on, now they're calling him the king, right? And we have no kings tomorrow, right? We're going to take on the dictator, the fascist, the authoritarian, all of that. But once again, while they're trying to, it's playtime for them. They're putting on the phony uniform. They're using the language, but the message still falls flat. Another F word that you can ascribe to the Democrats who are trying so hard to look as tough as Trump, but are as weak and woke as what we remember and we rejected last year.
It reminds me of this interview I saw with the singer Liza Minnelli when she was asked to sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, which her mother, Judy Garland, made very famous. It's the most famous song in the history of the world. And she refuses to sing it. And she was asked, why is it that you refuse to sing that song? Your mother made it famous. And her answer is, those songs have already been sung. You don't get famous singing someone else's songs. And that's true. There are a lot of very talented singers out there who make a living singing, who sing other artists' songs, and they're lounge singers. If you want to get famous singing, you have to have your own music. You have to have your own songs. You have to make a hit out of the songs. And it seems like with what the Democrats are doing, they're all lounge singers. They're all trying to copy Donald Trump. They're never going to be Donald Trump. They're never going to do it as well as Donald Trump. But that's the act that they're trying to portray. And I just see that as a loser's move.
I agree with you, except I would say that Louis Armstrong and Izzy also had some very beautiful renditions of Over the Rainbow. But at any rate, you're right. They're trying to emulate. They're trying to copy. They're looking for anything. And the bottom line is they need to put up a mirror and look at themselves. And that's what the Democrats, led by this governor in California, refuse to do. They cannot accept the fact that it is them themselves who have failed in everything. Their authenticity, how real they are, their ability to represent just everyday Americans, whether you're poor or rich, immigrant or undocumented. I mean, I've seen polling right now that shows that even immigrants are saying, yes, we agree with President Trump's deportation policy. And so they are looking at themselves and refusing to see what comes out of the mirror. because I think that they represent the ultimate in narcissism, that somehow the voters are bad, the voters are stupid, the voters are deplorable, remember, and everything must be wrong with them, because I have to be right. And when they realize that that's not selling, then the cursing goes up. Well, that's not working either.
With everything that's happened over the last week, do you think it makes Gavin Newsom more likely or less likely to be the Democratic nominee for president?
I think much less likely. And this is what I would say overall. Remember, Gavin Newsom was trying to move to become seen as the moderate, right? He was doing the Charlie Kirk. He was doing the, sort of the Republican men, doing these interviews, basically saying, oh, yes, I think that policy is unfair, and yet he would do nothing about it. So I think he was trying to move to the right, to cast a big shadow for the national stage for 2028. And then suddenly the riots happened. Everything happened here in Los Angeles, and he's part of it. So what does he do? He's kind of flipping and flopping and now trying to go back to say, well, I'm still the tough guy. I am the number one person taking on Trump. But AOC already has that lane. And the Democratic Party in 2028, I believe, is still going to be on a very leftward marching journey. This is the party of, get in line, we're marching to the left, even if we go over the cliff. So AOC has already claimed that lane. And I don't think that suddenly the progressives are going to look at this guy from California who's failed in every which way and say suddenly, okay, we're going to go with him. So I think Gavin has just squeezed himself out. It's not going to work for him anymore. And there may be another character on the scene, depending upon what happens in the outcome of the New York elections, if one of the Cuomos gets back in again. So I think Gavin basically, he's seeing his final days. He's like a zit on an ugly face. He's been squeezed, and we're seeing the ooze coming out on this Friday the 13th. Take that as an image of Governor Newsom.
Did you serve in the state legislature with Alex Padilla at the same time?
I did for a short while, not overall.
Okay. Tell me if I'm wrong. As someone who has worked with him and served in the legislature with him, tell me if I'm misreading this. I've always seen him as an MIT-trained engineer. And MIT-trained engineers are wonky. They're not really hot-headed. They're guys that can do math. They're kind of cerebral. They're not screamers and yellers. What happened yesterday when he got kicked out of that press conference seems totally out of character with the person that I've been watching for so long.
You're right. I mean, he was very slow. I mean, I always liked Alex very much. Very nice, very polite, very even unimpressive, if I may say. There's nothing that I can think of that he did that everybody says, wow. And the only reason he's in the U.S. Senate now is, to be honest, he was a DEI appointment by Governor Newsom looking to curry favor with the Latino growing community. That's the reason why Alex is there. No disrespect to Senator Padilla, but let's be honest, why he's there. So with that stunt yesterday, and this is interesting, I think this is part of the whole, too, the shaping up for 2028. I think Senator Padilla does see blood in the water for 2028. He has seen Gavin's star go down. He's ready to maybe pull out a et tu Brutus as well, and thinking, okay, it's AOC, or maybe I can rise to the challenge to this. So that was Alex Padilla's way, I think, of trying to begin to put a signal that I can be woke, I can be tough, I can start challenging Trump and take on this pathway for California with a little bit more of a moderate twist to it, but to challenge AOC somewhat. So I think it was sort of a trying out, an audition for 2028. Mark my words, I think his name is going to be in the hat. At least he thinks so. I still think he's a bit delusional. Whoever gets it in the Democratic Party, I don't think they have a chance. I really don't. I think 2028, that ship has already sailed, and like Greta, they're going to be turned back to the shores and saying, go away in your own little sailboat.
As much as it pains me to say this, I think after the last week, Karen Bass is actually in a stronger position for re-election. And I say that because over the last 5 or 6 days, Rick Caruso, who's the guy we assumed would be the candidate that would run against her, has essentially been validating everything that Karen Bass has been doing. He's not being critical of her and her performance and what she's doing. He's been basically supporting what she's been doing and saying he might have even gone farther than her. And if he is the biggest threat to Karen Bass, I don't see who his constituency is at this point. Because if you like the job that Karen Bass is doing, why would you vote for him and why not vote for her for re-election?
I agree with you, but I think not so much for what she's doing, but because nobody else will step up to run. And you're right on Caruso, but I do think, though, that Caruso and Karen, they might have made some kind of a little deal or something. Okay, you run for mayor, I'll look for governor. I wouldn't be surprised either if Caruso might even be thinking about presidential aspirations as well. So put that in the little toolbox as well. He might be looking beyond California. But I think for Karen Bass right now, and like I said, at a personal level, I've always liked her, but I just think she has failed miserably. But if nobody steps up to run, then nobody steps up to run, and we're stuck with what we have. So some folks are saying try to float like Jim Woods or somebody like that. But who else in LA is going to do it? The controller, Mejia, I think was sort of, flirting with the idea of running. And he would come at it from a far left perspective going against Karen. But I think even still, the far left, they're basically wrapping up. And I think they're using it as leverage to Karen Bass to get even more of what they want with their agenda. So be prepared. Karen Bass has not finished taking a wrecking ball to the City of the Angels. There's going to be a whole lot more that we are going to experience because Karen Bass is turning to the far left flank to shore up what would otherwise be just a very bad candidacy overall.
Senator Gloria Romero. You can follow her on X at Gloria J. Romero. Senator Romero, thanks so much for stopping by and have yourself a wonderful weekend.
Well, have yourself a wonderful and safe but fun Friday the 13th.
And Randy, now that we've hit the halfway point of today's show, if you want to continue listening to us after we sign off, that's easy to do.
All you got to do is search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's the Apple Podcasts app, iHeart, Spotify. Search for The John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. You can do a Google on the YouTube. Get one of our apps, the KABC app or the KSFO app, and you'll be good to go. You'll have all of everything that you could possibly want to listen to, because otherwise you got to listen to Pamela Price's podcast, and that's just dreck.
She called me a crime boss.
In the meantime, what do you say we make a couple of listeners very happy?
Well, let's do that right now. 790 KABC welcomes George Thurgood with special guest Foghat at the Pacific Amphitheater at the OC Fair on July 18th. Tickets are on sale now at packamp.com, but right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-795-2222. Get spare tickets to the show. All concert tickets include admission to the OC Fair. Tickets furnished by the Pacific Amphitheater. Good luck dialing.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. As we mentioned before, California Governor Gavin Newsom is quite aggressive online. And it's not just coming from his own personal account. He has, in his employment, a bunch of catty teenage girls who are men who are tweeting on his behalf.
And they're getting very nasty with the most random of people, including Assemblyman James Patterson. And for what happened in this little tiff, we go to KCRA 3's Ashley Zavala.
Lisa, this whole situation has sparked a new debate between California Republicans and Governor Gavin Newsom's office. In response to the video of Senator Padilla being forcibly removed, California Republican Assemblyman Joe Patterson posted this on X. He said, quote, "If I busted into a press conference with the governor or Senator Padilla, I promise you the same exact thing would happen to me." Then, as you see in the response below, Izzy Gardon, Governor Gavin Newsom's communications director, responded. He said, quote, "I'd politely ask you to leave, though you do not deserve politeness in this moment for this grotesque tweet, you bald little man."
What the hell?
It's like how Bobby Heenan used to talk to Mean Gene Okerlund.
Tweet, you bald little man. I did a brief interview with Patterson. Here's what he had to say.
And the whole thing was an unfortunate situation that it even got to that point where a U.S. senator attempted to rush to the podium. I mean, my view is that have I done a similar thing, to a governor's press conference, I would actually started, moving up towards the podium, kind of moving the law enforcement out of the way. I would actually expect similar treatment. People seem to be most shocked by the senator being handcuffed by officers and put on the ground. I mean, is that something you would expect the CHP to do to you in a governor's press conference? If they didn't know who I was, I would actually expect that. Obviously, there's going to be...
I do love the assumption that everyone knew who Alex Padilla was.
Nobody knows who Alex Padilla is. And it's not because he doesn't do press. He's on television every day. He's just boring and not interesting, so it's just white noise.
Someone emailed me yesterday. They got him confused for Josh Mankiewicz on Dateline.
If they didn't know who I was, I would actually expect that. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of speculation around that question. The governor's spokesman said your tweet was grotesque, and he called you a bald little man. Just your reaction to that? Well, it just goes to show how classless he is, first of all. But
what do you think he's making, Izzy?
Oh, $200,000 a year, maybe more.
To bleep post on Twitter in the name of Gavin Newsom?
If you're Gavin Newsom, that's a department that you spend money on because you need to get your name out there so you can run for president. So you need a full-time press operation going 24/7.
First of all, but also just goes to really the amateur hour we're dealing over in the comms team over there. I mean, the fact that they felt like they needed to respond and also call me a name based on my appearance. I mean, could you imagine doing that to anybody but a bald white guy? I don't think that would happen. So
that is one of the few groups that's left.
Bald people, yes. It is open season on them.
Used to be it was the fats and the balds, but you can't even go after the fats anymore.
There are now civil rights organizations that represent fat people. Have you seen that group?
I have not. How do you join?
There's a group that represents fat people, and whenever there's fat jokes on sitcoms or in a comedian's act or on social media, whatever the case may be, they flip out and they issue press releases.
Imagine if they saw our mailbag.
Oh, could you imagine?
I don't think that would happen. So it's a totally classless thing from the governor's office, but I'm really not surprised or shocked. That's just how they operate down there. So will you stress test this? Do you plan to show up to the next Governor Newsom press conference? Yeah. Does Governor Newsom have press conferences?
Probably have to get on his podcast.
He's not booking any California legislators on that podcast.
No.
I mean, he has so few press availabilities. This opportunity wouldn't even present itself to me. Obviously he does the ones he has to do around like the May revise and stuff, but I don't even think I would get the opportunity because I have no idea when he's even having a press conference, if he even does them at all. We should note the governor does do press conferences. He has not done one in Los Angeles, though, in the last couple of weeks with everything going on there.
No, why would he do that?
No, he can't do that because if he has a press conference in downtown L.A. and the point of the press conference is to say that everything's fine and there's a 7-Eleven getting looted right over his shoulder, that's not a good look. So he can't do it.
Last month, though, the governor did do 2 press conferences in Sacramento. I checked in with Izzy Gardon, the governor's communications director, to see if there's anything more he wanted to share on this. On Patterson expecting to be handcuffed in that situation, Gardon told me, quote, he's free to believe that, just like I'm free to believe I ride a unicorn to work, but any halfway...
What a sassy biatch.
Yeah, no kidding.
He's free to believe that, just like I'm free to believe I ride a unicorn to work, but any halfway rational person knows that's pure fiction, end quote. tension obviously high between both parties right now, Lisa.
So is it just standard policy, whether it's the governor's office or we're talking about the office of the public health director for Los Angeles County, to just hire the bitchiest person possible to be your comms director?
I think it's a couple of different things. I think that bitchy people are attracted to those jobs because every so often you'll see some corporation's Twitter handle tweeting out sassy things, and you say, wait a minute, why is Oreo Cookies getting involved in this? And then you find out who's operating the account for Oreo Cookies, and you go, okay, it's a little bitch. I think those people go into those professions. Could you imagine this guy working on the budget? Could you imagine this guy as a surgeon trying to explain to you that you need your gallbladder removed? You can't talk like that in those jobs. You can talk like that if you work in a politician's communications department, but that's basically it.
So the only thing that Izzy is qualified for is trolling people on Twitter.
Basically. Like I said, he's a catty teenage girl. And here's a prediction. These guys, or they, thems, are eventually going to get Gavin Newsom in trouble. Because when you're hired to be catty and you're hired to generate conflict on social media, at some point you're going to cross some line. And the moment one of these guys starts attracting negative attention to Gavin Newsom, guess what? They're going to be out of a job. Because Gavin Newsom hates it whenever anyone around him attracts negative attention that then gets slapped against him. That's why he doesn't like Barbara Ferrer. Barbara Ferrer became a laughingstock in the country, and he believes that that contributed to the recall campaign against him. Yeah. So he hates her with the hot, hot hate of 1,000 suns.
He's not alone.
No, everyone hates her, including the people who work for her.
We have one that emails us regularly.
Oh, we love that. But I'm telling you, this guy is going to do something that's going to get Gavin Newsom in big trouble. That's my prediction. You could take it to the bank. Whenever there's a high-speed chase in the Bay Area, in any of the non-Oakland cities, it's shocking how often the crook flees to the city of Oakland. They do that for a reason. In Oakland, the cops can't engage in a high-speed chase. In other cities, they can. Because of this, the crooks are aware of it, and Oakland is the place that you need to go to if the cops want you in custody. Well, there's now a push in Oakland to reverse that policy, so it'll be easier for the cops to catch the bad guy. But Randy, because Oakland's got a Oakland, there's pushback to that.
In fact, activists want the CHP to follow what Oakland police does, and they don't want even CHP chasing suspects in the city of Oakland because the activists say the chases are more dangerous than the criminals.
Well, the reality is they don't want the criminals to go to jail, and the criminals can't go to jail if you can't catch them, so they want to create a loophole so that they can't be caught in Oakland.
For more, here is ABC 7 in the Bay Area.
A fatal crash shortly after a CHP pursuit is fueling the debate about police pursuits in the city of Oakland. The crash came while the police commission is weighing whether to change OPD's pursuit policy. Now, people rallied ahead of a meeting tonight, and ABC 7 News reporter Ansar Hassan was there.
We are tired of our communities being endangered because of high-speed police policies that the data shows do not prevent nor do they solve crime.
Okay, I don't know who this woman is, but already her saying the data makes me believe that she's full of crap. When you start saying data over and over and over again, you're making up for something, like George Gascon used to do.
You can come up with data to support almost any argument.
Well, it's like during COVID, whenever they would do something ridiculous, like shut the beaches down, they'd say that they were following the science.
Yeah. Do not prevent nor do they solve crime.
Kat Brooks with the watchdog group Anti-Police Terror Project says,
yes, she's totally unbiased.
The Anti-Police Terror Project?
Yes. She gets airtime on any story about OPD trying to allow their police officers to do their job. And by the way, if you want to know how OPD got to the way it is, it's because the police commission is made up of people like this.
She should go on that Pamela Price podcast.
I bet you she has.
She called me a crime boss.
Kat Brooks with the watchdog group Anti-Police Terror Project says this is not a new fight. A coalition of community groups are demanding no change to the Oakland Police Department's pursuit policy.
Because everything's fine. You know, if OPD stumbles upon people crashing a Kia into a 7-Eleven, right now they can't pursue them. And that's great.
And in Oakland, you're talking about a city with a ton of crime. So if you don't allow the cops to chase after them after the crime is committed, what happens is the cops just say, fill out a form online. There's no point in showing up. There's no point. You can't chase after them. Your hands are tied.
Now, the way the policy is written, John, if they look like they're doing something incredibly violent, you can chase after them. Unless they start driving above 50 miles an hour, then you have to stop the pursuit.
Well, and then you also have to factor in that the people who will be determining what's violent are the people of Oakland, the elected officials in Oakland, who believe that what happened in downtown L.A. was a peaceful protest. Their idea of violent is very different from the actual definition of the word.
You know, at least Shangy kept it real.
Not a day goes by where I don't wish I could just wave a magic wand and silence the gunfire.
Oh, I miss her.
We are in a time where our elected and appointed officials are creating public safety policies, not based in data, but in knee-jerk reactions for headlines.
You can make data come up with any argument you want. It doesn't make it factual.
I love the fact that they think that the news sensationalizes crime and makes it seem like crime is a problem when in fact it's not. That's something that we hear over and over and over again. Who, especially in Oakland, is buying that?
Twice this year, we have had to tell stories of the same 7-Eleven that got robbed twice in one day.
But that's just the news trying to sensationalize things, Randy.
High-speed chases are not going to make us any safer.
Because of the data, you know.
Last month, Oakland Police Chief Lloyd Mitchell sent a letter to the Police Commission to formally request loosening OPD's chase policy. Special Order 9212 requires automatic termination of police pursuits over 50 miles an hour without prior approval.
It's like the opposite of the movie Speed.
It's like Al Cowlings. It's in every black and white.
Chief Mitchell has the support of Governor Gavin Newsom and the Oakland Police Union.
You remember, Gavin, before the fires, before all the other big headlines that took all the attention out of 2025, one of the first things Gavin did this year was go after Oakland and their chase policy. And even though there was no follow-through with this, he was threatening to call back the CHP that has been in Oakland to supplement them because they can't get their act together because not enough people want to work in Oakland as a police officer for obvious reasons. Gavin was saying, if you don't change this chase policy, I'm pulling out the CHP. Of course, he didn't do that.
And Oakland is one topic that Gavin Newsom never want to talk about because it's a horrible story and it doesn't reflect well on him. And he is basically denying that what goes on in Oakland on a daily basis is happening in California. But Oakland is the steroids version of what everyone thinks of California as a whole. So he would prefer that no one talk about Oakland.
It's a lot of crime now.
And the Oakland Police Union.
Everything that we do from a policing standpoint poses a high risk to our community. And we have to balance that. And that's what we're trying to do. And that's what my proposed changes to our current policy do is to provide that balance of safety to our community, but also provide security.
Those concerned about high-speed chases point to Marvin Boomer, a popular high school teacher who was killed 2 weeks ago following a CHP chase of a suspect.
Yeah, but that's because of a reckless 18-year-old driver with a stolen car. Like, the CHP didn't crash into him.
I love the fact that they're blaming the cops for this.
Well, that's what the Anti-Police Terror Project is for.
CHP says the chase was called off before the crash.
Oh, and that's the other thing. They called off the chase.
So that's not even true.
This guy was going 100 miles an hour after they stopped chasing him.
Simply put, our streets aren't battlegrounds. They're not highways. They
They are the fundamental public spaces, the very threads that connect people to opportunity, to recreation, and to each other.
Those rallying want CHP to stop patrolling Oakland streets and want...
They believe that Oakland is over-policed?
Yes. That's the problem.
And we wonder why Barbara Lee got elected.
Those rallying want CHP to stop patrolling Oakland streets and want more accountability from law enforcement in the aftermath of such chases.
There's lots of talk about accountability when it comes to young people who transgress, and zero accountability when it comes to murdering cops or murdering CHP.
Well, there's definitely a take.
Oakland's got to Oakland. All right, we have one more hour left before the weekend begins. It is the John Phillips Show.